Welcome to Dan's Talks. My guest today is Sarabeth Levine, better known as Sarabeth of Sarabeth, so one of the most popular and famous restaurants in the city of New York. And I'm glad to have her on the podcast. She's been out here going back and forth for many, many years. And I wondered, take us back to when you first started Sarabeth's. It's up on Madison at the hotel up
Well,
there.
that wasn't the first one. But if you want, I can. Where would you like me? I can tell you when I first began on Amsterdam Avenue. I could tell you, the moves, just a little bit how it all happened, how I began making the preserves in my apartment, that wonderful orange apricot marmalade, which we're still making today. I began cooking at home. I don't know if you know that, but I began making the marmalade in my kitchen in my Upper West Side apartment.
That's what I wondered. How did you decide to open a restaurant? That's, I think, some question that's a fair one.
Yes, well, it began by just making the jam and making it for the opening of a cafe that Bill and his partner had opened on 34th Street. And for the opening, I made a family recipe. And everybody fell in love with it. And for some odd reason, Gail Green, ate it with a croissant there, this little cafe next to the movie theater. And she sought me out to find out where we could buy it. And I hadn't even thought of making it or selling it. And I said, well, you can't really buy it anywhere, other than have it there at that little cafe. She said, well, if you decide to make it, you better let me know. So it all began with that little thought. And I started making it at home, and I took a couple of samples down to Balducci's. They loved it. They said, where else is it? I said, oh, well, I saw Bloomingdale's and they want to buy it too. That really wasn't the truth at the time. But then I went to Bloomingdale's and told them that Balducci's was going to buy it. And before you know it, my preserves were in the window in Bloomingdale's on 59th Street in their first Made in America presentation that they did, the orange apricot marmalade. That's kind of how it began.
What was this? Was there a secret ingredient, or how does a jam get to be in the window? It must be very good. So how did that happen?
Well, it's a very, very unusual jam. Nobody had ever eaten anything like it. So for them, for most people, you buy a preserve, a jam, or a jelly, it's one flavor. That's how it used to be then. Nobody combined flavors. And because the orange apricot marmalade is oranges, apricots, and pineapple, it was very unusual and very different. It didn't taste like a marmalade that people didn't like it. Most people don't like the bitterness of a marmalade person to like that. And what happened was it just caught on, and it got reviewed. It was reviewed many times as the marmalade because it really wasn't a plain, simple orange marmalade. And so when we saw that this was beginning to happen, Bill, my beloved husband, may he rest in peace, he said, listen, I'm going to build you a place on Amsterdam Avenue. We've got to get this out of the apartment. So there we were. We opened up a small little place. He built it with his team. They built it. It was with a little Pierre du wallpaper, and it was such a nothing like it on Amsterdam Avenue, because beyond 79th Street in 1981, you really didn't want to walk past 79th Street in Amsterdam. So it was really very unique to have this place there, and people just fell in love with it right away. And I opened it with a small bakery with it, and before you know it, the bakery was booming, and the people were buying the jams. And within 6 months, people want to sit down and eat. They want breakfast. So that was the beginning of breakfast and the restaurant, and kind of the rest is kind of like history.
Yeah, tell me about Tell me about the different Sarabeths that came, and some went, but some stayed, and where they are now.
Well, here in Manhattan, for the first one that we opened after that bakery jam factory that was on between 79th and 80th on the left-hand side, 412 Amsterdam Avenue. We were approached by somebody to go look at the Wales Hotel on the east side. And so we opened up on the east side, not in the bigger space that we had originally, but in half the size. The hotel told us that sight unseen, we had to guarantee them that in 2 years we would take the shoe store and the cleaning store next door and expand. So they gave us a little peek, but you couldn't tell what it was because it was a very small storefront in the front, but we couldn't see what the back was. So we said, sure, we'll take it, whatever. And so that expanded and got bigger. And then we moved the bakery jam factory from the west side of the street over to the east side of the street, up one block at 423, where it still is. And we built that one where we had the whole bakery production downstairs in the basement. And we had the upstairs as the restaurant with breakfast and everything booming and bustling and everybody loving breakfast, because nobody at the time nobody did breakfast. If you wanted a great breakfast, you had to go into the hotel. You had to go to the plaza. You had to go to the Helmsley to have a breakfast. And any breakfast that you could get in New York City was like a corner luncheonette, so it was very unusual at the time. This is 42 years ago that we have these breakfast type restaurants that began, and then of course developed into lunch and dinner, and then we opened Central Park South next, and then we opened Tribeca and with our partners and opened the Park Avenue South, which you see. Unfortunately, and I love that space, the east side had to close a few years ago because they sold the building and everyone had to leave. So that was a big loss because it was really very popular and a really great location. And that happened before COVID.
Tell me, when did you first start coming out east to the Hamptons?
Well, before I tell you that, just let you know that we have 4 restaurants in Japan.
Oh.
We have 2 in Korea. All right. We have
South
3 in Taiwan. Right. We have 1 in Dubai. We have 2 locations in Saudi Arabia, and one in Qatar, or Qatar, as however you choose to say it. And so that's the collection right now. And
wow,
who knows what's coming next, right?
Yeah. What was the philosophy of behind it that people love the food for? As I've eaten at it, and I recall it as being like home, being like how your mother used to make, or it's a beautiful menu. And
thank you. Well, it began as elevated breakfast food, not how we normally thought of breakfast. But when we thought of having cereal as a child, your mother put oatmeal in the bowl and handed it to you. I kind of elevated it with half and half and fruit and nut toppings and raisins and I just kind of made it a little more elaborate. Didn't make it too elaborate, but it wasn't as simplified as what we would have had at home. And I think that was the attraction. Like you could get scrambled eggs with cream cheese and salmon, and we called that Goldilocks. And we eventually added the eggs Benedict, which is really very popular. My God, how many English muffins I make down here at the bakery, because we have the bakery here at the Chelsea Market where we bake for the restaurants in New York.
wow.
So, what made it different, I don't know. Was it the fact that there was really nothing like it? I think I want to say, and I'm not patting myself on the back, I was really the first I think I brought brunch to the dining scene, which is really what happened.
I know you did something that was so unusual that I never forgot, and I think it might be a way of looking at how you became so successful. we have written up your restaurant in the city, and one day you appeared at our office in Bridgehampton to meet us, and not only did you meet us, but you challenged the staff to produce. I think you did this, I think, 3 times. You gave members of the staff a week to cook a pie, a certain kind of pie, I think. And
Yes.
you would then join us at our main conference table. Everyone would bring out the pies. You would eat them and criticize them and critique them and suggest what could be made better. I've never seen anyone do that before, and I was so delighted by it. I just never forgot it. You apparently, I just reminded you of it.
I know, it was so much fun.
It was so wonderful. And
thank you.
But I also want to ask you about how you found the Hamptons and how that became part of your life.
Well, my younger daughter had been, going out there a little bit. And when she was, I want to say when she was first married, and then they started to rent. She and her husband started to rent out there, and then the grandchildren started happening. And I was a big lover of Lido, Long Beach and Lido, because I had lived there for a few years and before I came to the city, and I loved the beachiness and I wasn't Sarabeth at the time, or was I? Yes, I was. Excuse me. Of course I was. I wasn't Sarabeth at the time when I lived there, but when I used to go there, and Bill and I used to rent, right near the beach, almost on the beach. We would rent a house to be near the grandkids. In the summer, it would be nice. And so that's how I, began with the beaching. And then when Jennifer, started to go out east with the kids, we would go out, and I really loved it. And I really fell in love with it. And that's how it happened. That's like 20 some odd years ago that I've been going out there. And it's just my place of rest, my place of joy. Have an adorable little house. It's just great. I'm in the trees. It's just so refreshing to leave the city and be out there, and come Sunday or Monday, or sometimes I stay for a week, or sometimes I stay mostly a 3-day weekend. I hate leaving. I hate coming back to the city. And then as soon as I come back to the city, I've got the bustle and the boom, and that's the blood starts going, and I'm back in the bakery, and I'm happy. And then I go back out east. So it's a very, very, very nice balance. But it's so beautiful out there. So beautiful.
Which town did you settle in? Which of the towns did you?
I'm in Watermill.
Uh,
I'm on the edge of woods where they used to have that extraordinary horse farm, which is kind of across the street from me. That I believe is owned by Rizzio, the man who owns Barnes and Noble. He has a big horse farm, I think, out there, or whatever. And then Rizzio, and then what happened was they sold this 40 acres of gorgeous farm, lot next door to me, and now of course we've got 13 houses that have come up over the last years, and but that's okay. They don't bother me. It's wonderful. It's good for the value of our land, and it's good. It's just good for people to come and be in their homes. So that was a change on our street. But I never ever. People ask me, why did you never open up a place out east? You like to go out there. You can spend even more time out there.
Yeah,
and my answer is always, right? Our answer, my Bill, my little self-portrait of Bill, our answer was, we want to enjoy it out there. We don't want to worry about running a restaurant. We don't want to go out there and work, because once there's a place, if it's mine, in other words, if I don't have partners and I'm going to operate it, okay, I just wouldn't have enjoyed. It wouldn't have meant the same thing to me having the wonderful Hamptons and the pleasure that I get from the beaches and the the trees and just the life out there. I love it. It's wonderful.
I
You know, you've been there. How many years have you been there? You've been there a very long time.
have. I was since I've been here 60 years. It's seen tremendous change in that time. And it's just I was just amazed when I first came out because I was a teenager, and my dad had bought a store out in Montauk, and we were moving out to live there, not to visit. So I saw this place. I said, "Wow, it's got beaches and cliffs and sand dunes and forests, and I've never. It's like the world." So I just loved it, and that's, I guess, the same thing. And but I think I'm different in the sense that I love to do the writing and drawing, which I do, and so it's all part of me. It's all one thing. And I travel.
I know, it's great.
It's what I do.
Great.
So tell me which. I guess you've been to the Middle East many times. I wondered what.
Not many times. I've been there twice. I haven't been to the recent openings yet of the Saudi Arabia and Qatar. But Dubai it's very, very, very interesting. It's not a cultural place. In other words, the history there, it's different if you would go from going to to Paris or going, to London. The history in it is different. It's very new and a lot of new development. It's very, very, it's just, I found it very unusual. I found the people very special. And I find the people special, the people that the few people that I met there that are working, at the Sarabeth. It was just a very, it's different, it's just a different place. And, the women are it's amazing how they are into fashion and into food and it's just a different culture. There's no drinking, as you know, and there's no pork and I remember when we opened the Dubai about 5-6 years ago. We opened the doors the day of the opening, and we let in maybe half the restaurant space. We did not fill the whole space at once. We had to get into a rhythm. And I'm in the kitchen, and of course, where am I working? I'm next to I'm in the Eggs Benedict station. So here I am doing the Eggs Benedict, getting the English muffins and the toast, moving along here, and all of a sudden, the server's coming back into the kitchen, bringing back all the Eggs Benedict. I mean, like plates and plates. And I said, "What's wrong? What's wrong with the Eggs Benedict?" He said, "They won't eat them like this. They're raw." And I thought, oh my goodness, right? So immediately, we didn't let any more people in. We had to remake at least 50% of the food. Okay. And from that moment on, the next day, the menu was edited that says, "We serve our Eggs Benedict loose and runny. If you prefer them more well done, please let your server know." I mean, like really prominent, okay? And so there's why I'm telling you this is that if you go to Japan, it's the reverse. You have to be able to take the plate and shake the plate, and that Benedict sitting on the English muffin has to be able to wobble and move. But it's got to be a structure, like a building, like a hard-boiled egg inside, of course, with the hollandaise. They love the hollandaise, but, it's just very different. So I guess the reason why, that always kind of why I tell this story that I often tell, how the Sarabeths are different all over the world, right? Wherever they are, because everybody for it to be successful, you have to be willing to bend and give the customer what they want.
I think
if I would insist on serving loose and runny Eggs Benedict in Dubai, I wouldn't have any customers. If I hard boiled them in Japan, they would go crazy because the Japanese eat raw eggs.
Oh,
Okay, they have a dish of rice where they take the egg, break the egg over the top of the rice, and they mix it in, and it's a raw egg.
and
So,
it's
every place is different, and every place is very, very beautiful, and meaning, we love New York. I mean, who doesn't love New York City? And who doesn't love Japan, who's been there? It's just a very special place. I love our partners there. They're very, very special. So that's kind of the breakfast thing, and how it kind of all began. It began with breakfast.
Well, we've run through the time allowed for podcasts, which it's said that after 20 minutes, everybody goes on to do something else. So I want to thank you for being on the podcast, and we will see you soon. And
Yes, I hope to see you. I'll reach out to you when I'm out there. It would be nice to see you.
I would like that. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Sure.